Captain Hyunwoo stared at the navigation display with growing worry. The numbers made no sense. They should have been near Mars by now, but instead, the stars around them were completely unknown. The experimental warp drive had worked, but something had gone very wrong during their first jump. "Yoonbi, what's our position?" he asked his science officer. Yoonbi looked up from her console, her face pale. "Sir, I've checked the star maps 3 times. We're not anywhere in known space. The constellations don't match anything in our database." The bridge of the Soul's Pride fell silent. This was supposed to be humanity's first test of faster-than-light travel. 200 crew members had volunteered for this historic mission. Now they were lost somewhere in the galaxy with no way home. Tae-min, the tactical officer, suddenly straightened in his chair. "Captain, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. It's big, really big." Hyunwoo moved to look at Tae-min's screen. What he saw made his breath catch. A massive structure hung in space ahead of them, larger than any city on Earth. It was clearly artificial, with geometric patterns and light stretching for kilometers in every direction. "My God," whispered Yoonbi. "That's a space station. But who could build something so huge?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding across the bridge. New contacts appeared on the tactical display. Ships were approaching from multiple directions, moving faster than anything humanity had ever built. "Captain," Tae-min reported, his voice tight with tension, 12 vessels incoming. Their design is unlike anything in our databases. They're surrounding us." Hyunwoo felt his heart racing, but he forced himself to remain calm. This was first contact with an alien civilization, something humanity had dreamed about for centuries. But it was happening in the worst possible way. They were alone, outnumbered, and completely unprepared. The communications officer, Dong-hyuk, looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's in multiple languages. Some I don't recognize, but there are mathematical sequences that seem universal." "Put it through the speakers," Hyunwoo ordered. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in several different alien languages before switching to broken but understandable English. "Unknown vessel. You have entered Velkan Imperial space without authorization. State your origin and purpose immediately." The bridge crew looked at their captain, waiting for his response. Hyunwoo knew that whatever he said next would determine the fate of everyone aboard. More importantly, it might determine the future relationship between humanity and this alien empire. He thought quickly. They knew nothing about these aliens or their intentions. Earth's location was secret information that could never fall into the wrong hands. The humans were clearly outmatched technologically and numerically. "All stations," he said quietly to his crew, "listen carefully. We know nothing about these beings or their empire. We don't know if they're friendly or hostile. Until we understand the situation, we reveal nothing about Earth, our technology, or our capabilities. We observe everything, we learn everything, but we tell them nothing." His crew nodded grimly. They understood the stakes. Hyunwoo activated the communication system. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the vessel Soul's Pride. We are explorers who became lost during our journey. We mean no harm and seek only to repair our ship and continue on our way." There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. "You will proceed to Nexus Prime Station for processing and evaluation. Any attempt to flee will result in the destruction of your vessel. Comply immediately." More alien ships appeared around them, their weapons clearly visible. The humans had no choice but to obey. As they approached the massive station, the crew watched in amazement. The structure was even larger than they had initially thought. Thousands of different ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Some of the vessels were familiar in design, suggesting multiple alien species worked together in this empire. Jinho, the chief engineer, spoke quietly to Hyunwoo. "Captain, I'm recording everything our sensors can detect. The technology here is centuries ahead of ours, maybe thousands of years." "Good," Hyunwoo replied. "Keep recording. Every detail might be important later." The Soul's Pride was guided into a massive docking bay. Through the viewports, they could see aliens of various species working on the station. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others had multiple arms or strange body shapes. But all of them stopped to stare at the human ship as it landed. Soon after they docked, a group of aliens approached their ship. The leader was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform, covered in symbols of rank. "I am Admiral Vextra of the Velkan Imperial Fleet," the alien announced through their communication system. "You will open your ship and submit to Imperial authority for processing." Hyun-woo looked at his crew one more time. "Remember, we are explorers who got lost. Nothing more. We reveal nothing about our true capabilities or Earth's location. Stay calm, stay observant, and follow my lead." The crew prepared to meet their first aliens. Medical Officer So Young had her scanners ready to learn about alien biology. Engineer Jin Ho was already analyzing the station's construction through the sensors. Intelligence Officer Na Ri was recording everything for future analysis. As the airlock opened, Hyun-woo stepped forward to meet the aliens. Admiral Vextra studied the human captain with obvious curiosity. Behind the admiral stood other aliens of different species, all watching the humans with intense interest. "Welcome to the Velkan Empire," Vextra said. "In 50,000 years of galactic civilization, we have encountered many species. Most react to first contact with either terror or aggression. Yet you seem remarkably calm." Hyun-woo simply nodded politely. "We are peaceful explorers, Admiral. We wish only to repair our ship and continue our journey." The alien admiral tilted its head, studying the human captain more closely. Something in Hyun-woo's calm demeanor seemed to puzzle it. "Very well," Vextra finally said. "You will be given quarters while the Imperial Council decides what to do with your species. Your ship will remain under guard." As the humans were escorted through the station, they said nothing to each other, but their eyes were constantly moving, observing everything, learning about their captors. They had stumbled into a galactic empire, but they were determined to make the best of their situation. What the aliens didn't realize was that their silence was not from fear or submission. It was the quiet of predators studying their prey, gathering information that might one day determine the survival of the human race. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime Station. They had been given comfortable quarters in the diplomatic section, with access to food, water, and basic amenities. To any observer, it seemed like they were settling in, well, to their new environment, but appearances were deceiving. In her assigned laboratory space, Yoonbi worked quietly with her scientific equipment. The aliens had been curious about human technology and had allowed her to set up some basic instruments. What they didn't know was that every device she used was also secretly scanning the station around them. "The metal composition is fascinating," she whispered to herself, making notes that looked like innocent scientific observations. In reality, she was documenting the station's structural weaknesses and the materials used in alien technology. Her scanner detected 17 different alloys in the walls alone, most of them unknown to human science. But more importantly, she had found the power distribution system. The entire station was powered by a central core that fed energy through predictable pathways. If that core were ever damaged, the station would lose life support within hours. Down in the engineering section, Jinho was having his own revelations. The aliens had proudly shown him their technology, believing that humans were too primitive to understand it. They were wrong. "Amazing craftsmanship," Jinho told his alien guide, a 6-armed being called Mechanic Yulvan. "How do you maintain such a complex system?" Yulvan was happy to explain, not realizing that Jinho was memorizing every detail. The human engineer learned about the station's defense systems, its communication networks, and most importantly, its emergency protocols. The aliens had backup plans for everything, except for one scenario. They had never planned for someone who understood their systems better than they thought possible. In another part of the station, Tae Min was being given a tour of the military sections. Admiral Vextra seemed proud to show off the Velkan fleet's capabilities to what it considered a primitive species. "This is our command center," Vextra explained. gesturing to a room full of tactical displays. "From here, we coordinate the defense of over 3,000 star systems." Taemin nodded appreciatively, asking simple questions that made him seem impressed but harmless. In reality, he was counting ships, analyzing weapons systems, and studying fleet deployment patterns. Every detail was being stored in his memory for later analysis. The alien admiral didn't notice that the humans' questions were becoming more specific and tactical with each passing day. Medical Officer So Young had her own assignment. During routine medical checks with various alien species, she was secretly gathering biological data. She learned about alien physiology, their weaknesses, and their immune systems. "Your species has an interesting metabolism," she told a reptilian alien during one examination. The creature preened at the compliment, not knowing that So Young had just discovered that its species couldn't survive in temperatures below freezing. Each piece of information was valuable. If humans ever faced these aliens in conflict, knowing their biological limitations could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Throughout all of this, Captain Hyun Woo maintained his role as the confused but cooperative explorer. He attended meetings with various Imperial officials, always polite, always seemingly helpful, but never revealing anything significant about humanity or Earth. "We are a young species," he would say, when asked about human civilization. "We have much to learn from the great Velkan Empire." The aliens ate up these compliments, but some were beginning to notice something strange about the humans. They never spoke casually among themselves. They never showed strong emotions. They never asked questions about things that didn't seem immediately practical. Coordinator Zeflin, a diplomatic official from the Multi-Species Council, voiced these concerns to Admiral Vextra during one of their private meetings. "Admiral, I've studied first contact situations for 2 centuries. Most species either panic, become aggressive, or try desperately to please us. These humans do none of those things. They're too controlled." Vextra waved a dismissive hand. "They're simply a disciplined species. Many military cultures produce such behavior, but they're supposedly explorers, not soldiers," Zeflin pointed out. "Yet they act with the precision of a trained military unit." Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Nari had been busy with her own secret mission. Using equipment disguised as personal devices, she had been monitoring alien communications throughout the station. What she discovered was alarming from the alien perspective. The Empire maintained control through fear and superior technology. Most species surrendered immediately when confronted by Imperial forces, having heard stories of Velkan power for thousands of years. But humans had no such fear. They had stumbled into the Empire by accident and showed no signs of being impressed or intimidated by its power. Nari also discovered something else interesting. Several alien species were watching the humans with growing curiosity. The way humans behaved was unlike anything they had seen before. Some were beginning to whisper among themselves, wondering if the humans represented something new and potentially threatening. Communications specialist Dong Hyuk had his own discoveries to report. While pretending to help the aliens understand human language, he had been secretly learning all about the Imperial communication systems. The Empire used a complex network of subspace transmissions to coordinate its vast territories. But Dong Hyuk had found the encryption keys and learned how to intercept and decode their messages. Most importantly, he had begun planting tiny monitoring devices throughout the station during his maintenance work on human equipment. Soon, every major system on Nexus Prime would be under human surveillance. As the weeks passed, the aliens grew increasingly uncomfortable with their mysterious guests. The humans were learning their languages quickly, understanding their technology faster than expected, and asking questions that seemed innocent but were actually quite sophisticated. Admiral Vextra finally decided to take action. During a meeting with Captain Hyun Woo, the alien admiral tried a more direct approach. "Captain, your ship has been repaired, but before you leave, the Imperial Council requires information about your species' military capabilities and the location of your homeworld." Hyun Woo met the alien's gaze calmly. "We are peaceful explorers, Admiral. We have no military to speak of. As for our homeworld, we became lost during our journey. and are not entirely certain of its location relative to Imperial space. It was technically true. They were explorers. They had gotten lost, and Earth's exact location relative to Imperial space was unknown. But it was also a masterful deflection that revealed nothing useful. Vextra's eyes narrowed. Captain, you have been studying our technology, our culture, and our systems with remarkable efficiency. This suggests a level of intelligence and organization that contradicts your claims of being simple explorers. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. We are naturally curious beings, Admiral. We find your civilization fascinating and wish to learn as much as possible during our brief stay. After the human captain left, Vexistra turned to Coordinator Zephlin with growing concern. They're not what they claim to be, the Admiral said. No species learns this quickly or remains this controlled during first contact. They're gathering intelligence on us. Zephlin nodded grimly. The question is, what do they plan to do with that intelligence? And what aren't they telling us about their own capabilities? For the first time since establishing their galactic empire, the Velkans were facing an unknown that truly frightened them. The human silence was becoming more terrifying than any declaration of war. The Imperial Council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Admiral Vexitra stood at the center, delivering a report that was causing visible unease among the assembled delegates. In 8 weeks of observation, we have learned almost nothing about these humans, Vextra reported. They claim to be explorers, but they study our defenses like military analysts. They say they are peaceful, but they gather intelligence like trained spies. High Counselor Malthek, an ancient being with crystalline skin, spoke from the elevated platform. Surely you exaggerate, Admiral. They are a single ship with 200 beings. How dangerous could they be? That's exactly the problem, Vextra replied. We don't know. In 50,000 years, every species we've encountered has either submitted immediately or fought desperately. These humans do neither. They comply with our request but reveal nothing about themselves. Meanwhile, in the human quarters, Nari was monitoring the council session through the surveillance devices Dong-hyuk had planted. She listened carefully as the alien leaders debated what to do about the human presence. Sir, she whispered to Captain Hyunwoo, they're scared. The council is arguing about whether to detain us forcibly or try to negotiate some kind of treaty. Hyunwoo nodded, not surprised by this development. His crew had been conducting what amounted to comprehensive espionage for weeks. It was natural that the aliens would eventually notice. What's our status on intelligence gathering? He asked quietly. Yunbi looked up from her notes. We've mapped their entire technological base. Their weapons, shields, and propulsion systems are advanced, but not impossible to counter. They rely heavily on energy-based weapons that could be disrupted by properly tuned electromagnetic fields. Jin-Ho added, I've identified critical weaknesses in their infrastructure. The power distribution systems on most Imperial installations follow the same basic design. If we could target the right components, we could disable entire fleets without firing a shot. Taemin had even more concerning information. Sir, I've analyzed their military tactics through historical databases. They showed me. The Empire hasn't fought a real war in over 10,000 years. They maintain control through intimidation and superior technology, but their actual combat experience is minimal. So, Young contributed her own findings. I've studied 17 different alien species now. Most have specific biological vulnerabilities that could be exploited. More importantly, they've been living in controlled environments for so long that they've lost many natural immunities. The picture that emerged was of an empire that was powerful but complacent. They had grown used to easy victories over primitive species and had never faced an opponent that could match their technology or understand their weaknesses. Back in the council chamber, the debate was becoming more heated. Some species representatives were demanding immediate action against the humans, while others urged caution. We should force them to reveal their homeworld's location, argued General Krikstal of the hegemony forces. If they refuse, we use enhanced interrogation techniques. And risk making enemies of an unknown species? Countered diplomat Vensara from the Peaceful Coalition. We know nothing about their military capabilities or how many of them exist. What if there are billions of humans, Spread across hundreds of worlds, High Counselor Malthek called for silence. Admiral Vexitra, in your professional opinion, do these humans represent a genuine threat to Imperial security? Vexitra was quiet for a long moment before answering. Counselor, I believe they represent the greatest unknown threat we have ever encountered, not because of their weapons or their numbers, but because of their methods. Explain. They turned First Contact into an intelligence operation. While we were trying to understand them as explorers, they were studying us as potential enemies. They've learned more about our empire in 2 months than most species learn in decades of formal contact. The chamber erupted in worried conversations. Many of the representatives were beginning to realize what the Admiral was saying. The humans had outmaneuvered them completely. Meanwhile, Nari was relaying this information to the human crew. They're panicking, she reported. Some are talking about forcing us to reveal Earth's location. Others are suggesting we might be advanced scouts for a human invasion force. Captain Hyun-woo considered their options. The situation was becoming more dangerous by the day. Soon the Empire would either have to let them leave or take more aggressive action. Either choice carried significant risks. Dong-hyuk, can you access their long-range communication systems? He asked. Yes, sir. I've been monitoring their subspace networks for weeks. Why? I want you to create a data package containing everything we've learned about the Empire. If something happens to us, I want that information to reach Earth. The communications officer nodded grimly and began working on the transmission. It would be disguised as background radiation and sent through multiple relay points to avoid detection. In her laboratory, Yoonbi was making her own preparations. Using stolen alien technology, she had created detailed scans of every major system on the station. If Earth ever needed to know how to disable Vulcan installations, they would have the information. Throughout the station, other alien species were watching the human situation with growing interest. Many of them had been conquered by the Empire centuries or millennia ago. The idea that someone might not be intimidated by Vulcan power was both fascinating and inspiring. A group of Zilithian merchants approached Hyun-woo during one of his walks through the civilian sections of the station. Captain, one of them said quietly, we have watched your people with great interest. You are not afraid of the Empire like we are. Hyun-woo was careful with his response. We mean no disrespect to Imperial authority. We are simply trying to understand your civilization. The Zilithian leader looked around nervously before continuing. Captain, there are many species who remember what freedom was like before the Empire. If your people represent change, know that you would not be alone. This was a dangerous development. The human presence was beginning to inspire resistance among conquered species. The Empire's control depended on the belief that resistance was hopeless. If that belief began to crack, the entire Imperial system could be at risk. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Vextra was receiving reports from across the Empire. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. The news of humans who showed no fear of Imperial power was spreading, and it was causing unrest among subject populations. The situation is becoming critical, Vextra reported to the council. We must either integrate these humans into the Empire immediately, or remove them before they inspire more rebellion. High Counselor Malthek made the decision. Bring the human captain before the council. We will demand full disclosure of their species' military capabilities and homeworld location. If they refuse, we will take more direct measures. As the summons was delivered to Captain Hyun-woo, Nari intercepted the council's private communications about what more direct measures meant. The Empire was preparing to use their most feared interrogation techniques, including mental probes and neural extractors. Sir, she warned Hyun-woo quietly, they're done playing games. If you don't give them what they want, they're planning to take the information by force. Hyun-woo smiled grimly. After weeks of patient observation and intelligence gathering, the final confrontation was approaching. The Empire was about to learn why human silence had been more terrifying than any declaration of war. Good, he said quietly. It's time they understood exactly what they're dealing with. Captain Hyun-woo stood before the Imperial Council, surrounded by representatives from across the galaxy. The chamber was designed to intimidate, with towering walls covered in symbols of imperial power. Most species that stood in this position were either begging for mercy or preparing for execution. Hyunwoo looked completely calm. High Counselor Malthek spoke from the elevated platform, his crystalline voice echoing throughout the chamber. Captain Hyunwoo of the species called humans, you have been guests of the Empire for 10 weeks. During this time you have studied our technology, learned our languages, and observed our customs. Now it is time for you to share information about your own people. I have been cooperative from the beginning, Counselor, Hyunwoo replied evenly. We have answered all questions honestly. Have you? Admiral Vextra stepped forward, holding a data pad. Our security analysis indicates that your people have been conducting systematic intelligence gathering operations. You've mapped our defense systems, studied our infrastructure, and analyzed our military capabilities. This is not the behavior of lost explorers. Hyunwoo tilted his head slightly. We are naturally curious beings, Admiral. Your civilization is fascinating to us. The simple response clearly frustrated the alien leaders. General Krikstal slammed his armored fist on the council table. Enough games. We demand to know the location of your homeworld and the size of your military forces. Are you advanced scouts for an invasion fleet? For the first time since arriving at the station, Hyunwoo showed emotion. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the cold smile of someone who held all the cards in a dangerous game. General, that would be inadvisable. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Every alien representative felt a chill at the quiet menace in those few words. High Counselor Malthek leaned forward. Are you threatening this council, human? Not at all, Counselor. I'm simply suggesting that some questions are better left unasked. Behind his calm exterior, Hyunwoo was mentally reviewing everything his crew had prepared. While he had been attending diplomatic meetings, his people had been busy with preparations the aliens knew nothing about. In the human quarters, pilot Min-Soo and navigator Hyejin had been working with stolen star charts to plan multiple escape routes from Imperial space. They had identified 7 different paths back toward Earth, including 3 emergency routes that would take them through uncharted space if necessary. Engineer Jin-Ho had been even busier. Using knowledge gained from studying the station's systems, he had prepared several surprises that could be activated remotely from the Soul's Pride. Nothing that would cause loss of life, but enough to demonstrate human capabilities when the time came. Most importantly, Dong Hyuk had completed his secret project. Hidden within the station's communication systems was a virus that would activate if the humans were harmed. It wouldn't damage the network, but it would broadcast a detailed analysis of Imperial weaknesses to every alien species in the Empire. Back in the council chamber, the tension was rising. The alien leaders were clearly frustrated by their inability to intimidate or extract information from the human captain. We know you have been gathering intelligence, Diplomat Vinsara said, trying a different approach. Why not admit it? We could offer you a place in the Empire, sharing our technology and knowledge. We appreciate the offer, Hyunwoo replied, but we prefer to remain independent. Independence is not an option, General Krikstal growled. Every species in this galaxy serves the Empire in some capacity. You will reveal the location of your homeworld, or we will extract the information through other means. Admiral Vextra activated a holographic display showing the Soul's Pride in its docking bay, completely surrounded by Imperial ships. Your vessel is outnumbered 50 to 1. You have no weapons capable of fighting our fleet. Cooperation is your only option. Hyunwoo looked at the tactical display for a moment, then returned his gaze to the council. Admiral, you assume that escape requires fighting your fleet. That's a very limited perspective. Something in his tone made several council members exchange worried glances. The human was too confident for someone in his position. You speak as if you have options we're unaware of, High Counselor Malthek observed. Don't we all have options, Counselor? The question is which ones we choose to exercise. At that moment, Nari was monitoring the conversation from the human quarters while simultaneously tracking Imperial fleet movements throughout the system. What she saw concerned her. The Empire was moving additional ships into position around Nexus Prime. They were preparing for something more than just preventing the humans from leaving. She activated a secure channel to the Soul's Pride. Jinho, they're positioning ships for a possible bombardment of our vessel. How ready are our contingencies? Ready when you are, Jinho replied grimly. If they want to see what we're capable of, we can give them a demonstration. In the council chamber, the interrogation was becoming more intense. High Counselor Malthek had grown tired of diplomatic approaches. Captain Hyunwoo, you will provide the location of your homeworld and details about your species' military capabilities. If you refuse, we will be forced to use enhanced interrogation techniques. Enhanced interrogation? Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. That sounds unpleasant. It is, Admiral Vextra confirmed. We have methods that can extract any information from any species. Mental probes, neural extractors, psychological conditioning, you cannot resist them. I see. Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment, appearing to consider his options. And if I provide this information voluntarily? Then you and your crew will be relocated to a comfortable world where you can live peaceful lives under Imperial protection? High Counselor Malthek promised. It was a lie, and everyone in the chamber knew it. Species with advanced technology were never allowed to remain independent. They were either absorbed into the Empire or eliminated as potential threats. Hyunwoo seemed to understand this as well. A generous offer, Counselor, but I'm afraid I must decline. The council members looked at each other in amazement. No species had ever refused Imperial authority so calmly. Then you have chosen the difficult path, General Krixtal announced. Guards, escort the human to the detention center. Prepare the neural extraction equipment. As Imperial guards moved toward him, Hyunwoo raised his hand slightly. It seemed like a gesture of surrender, but it was actually a signal to his crew. Throughout the station, hidden devices activated. Monitoring equipment that had been disguised as maintenance tools began broadcasting everything they had recorded. The virus in the communication system prepared to execute its programming. Most importantly, systems aboard the Soul's Pride came online. Jinho had been busy during the weeks of repair work, installing modifications that the aliens hadn't noticed. 1 moment, please, Hyunwoo said calmly as the guards approached. Before we proceed with your enhanced interrogation, perhaps I should explain something about human nature. High Counselor Malthek gestured for the guards to wait. Speak quickly. Hyunwoo's smile returned, colder than before. Counselor, you've spent weeks trying to understand why we've been so quiet. You've wondered why we don't show fear or desperation like other species. You've been puzzled by our calm acceptance of your authority. He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled alien leaders. The answer is simple. We've been quiet because we've been learning. We've been calm because we've been preparing. And we've been cooperative because we needed time to understand exactly what we were dealing with. The implications of his words were beginning to sink in. Admiral Vextra stepped forward, his weapon drawn. What have you done? Hyunwoo's smile widened. We've done what humans do best, Admiral. We've turned a hopeless situation into an advantage. And now it's time for you to learn why our silence was more terrifying than any declaration of war. The detention center of Nexus Prime was designed to break the will of any being unfortunate enough to be held there. High Inquisitor Kalthmore, a being known throughout the galaxy for his ability to extract information from the most stubborn minds, entered the interrogation chamber where Captain Hyunwoo waited. Kalthmore was a terrifying sight. His species had evolved as predators, with sharp teeth, claws, and eyes that could see into the infrared spectrum. His reputation was built on 2,000 years of successful interrogations. No being had ever resisted his methods. Human, Kalthmore said, his voice like grinding stone. I am High Inquisitor Kalthmore. I have broken the minds of beings from 1,000 worlds. You will tell me what I want to know. Hyunwoo looked up at the alien interrogator with the same calm expression he had maintained for weeks. Good morning, Inquisitor. I understand you have some questions for me. The casual response clearly unsettled Kalthmore. Most beings were screaming or begging by this point. The human seemed completely relaxed. I will ask you once more, Kalthmore said, activating several intimidating devices around the chamber. Where is your homeworld? How many ships does your species possess? What are your military capabilities? Those are interesting questions, Hyunwoo replied thoughtfully. But before I answer them, perhaps you should ask yourself a different question. And what question is that? Hyunwoo met the alien's terrifying gaze without flinching. Do you know why we've been so quiet during our stay here? Kalthmore laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Fear, of course. Your species recognizes our superiority and hopes to avoid destruction through submission. That's what most species would do, Hyunwoo agreed. But we're not most species, are we? The human's continued calm was beginning to disturb even the experienced interrogator. Kalthmore activated a neural probe, designed to cause excruciating pain while reading surface thoughts. Hyunwoo didn't even flinch. Inquisitor, that device won't work on human neural patterns. We've been studying your technology for 10 weeks. Did you think we wouldn't develop countermeasures? For the first time in centuries, Kalthmore felt a chill of uncertainty. Impossible. No primitive species could adapt to our neural probes so quickly. Primitive? Hyunwoo smiled. Inquisitor, that's your first mistake. You assumed we were primitive, because our technology seemed less advanced than yours. But advancement isn't just about energy weapons and faster ships. The human captain stood up from the interrogation chair, despite the restraints that should have held him. The locks had somehow been disabled. You see, Hyunwoo continued, while you were showing us your impressive technology, we were learning about your psychology. While you were demonstrating your military power, we were studying your weaknesses. While you were trying to intimidate us, we were gathering intelligence. Kalthmore reached for his weapon but found it wouldn't activate. Somehow the human had disabled it remotely. How? The interrogator demanded. Because we weren't observing your civilization to learn about your culture, Hyunwoo explained. We were conducting a comprehensive threat assessment. Every human on this station has been operating under military intelligence protocols from the moment we arrived. The truth was beginning to dawn on the alien interrogator. You're not explorers. Oh, we are explorers, Hyunwoo corrected. But we're also survivors. When humanity developed faster-than-light travel, our military leaders prepared us for every possible scenario, including accidental contact with hostile alien civilizations. The human captain moved to the chamber's control panel, which responded to his touch despite alien security protocols. My science officer Eunbi has identified 47 critical weaknesses in your technology. My engineer Jin Ho has mapped every vulnerable system in your infrastructure. My tactical officer Tae Min has analyzed your military deployments and found them predictable and easily countered. Kalthmore was backing toward the door, but it wouldn't open. The human had somehow taken control of the entire detention center. Every member of my crew has become a walking intelligence database about your empire, Hyunwoo continued. We know how your shields work and how to disable them. We know how your weapons function and how to counter them. We know how your society operates and how to disrupt it. The interrogation chamber's communication system activated, and Admiral Vextra's panicked voice filled the room. Hi, Inquisitor. We're experiencing system failures throughout the station. The humans have somehow taken control of our computers. Hyunwoo touched another control, and Vextra's voice was replaced by Dong Hyuk, speaking from the soul's pride. Captain, all systems are ready. We have established secure communication links with 17 rebel groups throughout the Empire, and they're receiving our intelligence packages about Imperial weaknesses. Thank you, Dong Hyuk, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Status on our departure preparations? Min-Soo and Hyejin have the navigation system ready. We can leave Imperial space within an hour using any of 7 different routes. Kalthmore was staring at the human captain in shock. This is impossible. No species has ever penetrated our security so completely. No species has ever had to, Hyunwoo replied. Most of the civilizations you've conquered were peaceful or primitive. They either submitted immediately or fought conventional battles they couldn't win. But humans are different. The human captain moved closer to the terrified interrogator. We're a species that evolved through constant warfare. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and global conflicts. We've learned to adapt, to innovate, and to turn every disadvantage into a weapon. Another voice came through the communication system. This time it was Nari. Captain, I'm monitoring Imperial communications across 3 star systems. Their fleet commanders are demanding immediate reinforcements. The information we've shared about their weaknesses is spreading faster than they can contain it. Yunwu nodded. And Jinho's little demonstration? Successful, sir. We disabled the weapon systems on 47 Imperial ships without causing any casualties. They know we could have destroyed them if we chose to. Kalthmore finally understood what had happened. You turned first contact into psychological warfare. Exactly, Hyunwoo confirmed. While your empire was trying to intimidate us, we were demonstrating something far more terrifying than brute force. We showed you that humans can learn anything, adapt to anything, and overcome any obstacle through intelligence and preparation. Detention center door finally opened, and Admiral Vextra entered with a squad of guards. But instead of weapons, they carried communication equipment. Captain, Vextra said, his voice defeated, the Imperial Council wishes to negotiate. Hyunwoo smiled. I'm sure they do. But I'm afraid our business here is concluded. We've learned everything we need to know about your empire. He walked past the guards toward the door, then paused and looked back at Admiral Vextra. Admiral, my crew and I will be departing within the hour. I trust there won't be any attempts to stop us? No, Captain, Vextra replied quietly. There won't be. Good. And Admiral? You might want to reconsider your empire's expansion policies. The galaxy is larger than you realize, and not all species will be as diplomatic as we have been. As Hyunwoo left the detention center, he activated his personal communicator. All crew prepare for immediate departure. Operation Silent Thunder is complete. 1 hour later, the Soul's Pride undocked from Nexus Prime Station. As they moved away from the massive structure, Yunbi looked back at the aliens who had tried to intimidate them. Sir, she asked, do you think they'll leave Earth alone? Hyunwoo was already composing his report to Earth Command. They'll leave us alone, Yunbi. But more importantly, they'll never again underestimate a species just because they seem quiet and cooperative. The human ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind an empire that would never be the same. Throughout the galaxy, conquered species had learned that the mighty Velkans could be outmaneuvered and defeated through intelligence rather than force. And in the depths of space, a single message was transmitted toward a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Contact established. Threat assessed. The galaxy is larger and more dangerous than we imagined, but humanity is ready. Prepare accordingly. The age of human silence was over. The age of human expansion was about to begin.